Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Butler Cain. Thank you for joining me today. This is not quite live. We were thinking we were going to go live at about 1 o'clock Central on this. However, it didn't quite work out that way, so this is a little pre-recorded, which means totally pre-recorded. But I do want to thank the Alabama Scholastic Press Association for giving me an opportunity. This is the kind of thing I always enjoy, and I'm excited to get to talk to you all today and hopefully be able to provide you with some encouragement and some information that might enable you to start working on your broadcasting career. Just to reiterate, you've probably seen a little bit of my bio, but I am at the University of North Alabama. I'm the chair of the Department of Communications there. I've been there about 4 years, and before that, spent a little bit of time teaching overseas in South Korea and out in Texas at another university there. And before that, I spent several years, a good number of them, as a broadcast news professional. And so it's always exciting when I get to talk to people, particularly students who are expressing some interest in doing broadcasting, because it's something that I loved, and it's also something I identified as something I wanted to do when I was in high school. And so today, just a couple of quick notes. I, like many of you, have been working or doing school from home since the pandemic showed up here in the United States, and so that's where I'm at today. And I'm using the headphones because I have other people in the house, so I never know when something else might happen around here. And so if you do hear something else going on, just ignore it, because I think we're all in the same boat here. And I've chosen to put the headphones on just to help mitigate that a little bit, but I think the audio is just a little bit better with these headphones. So what I'm going to do is go back and forth with PowerPoint and also the Word documents that I have. I've got some examples of some scripts that I'd like to show you all. And so I'll just kind of go back and forth between sharing the screen a little bit and not worry too much about having seamless transitions on this thing. So here we go. I'll go ahead and start sharing a little bit with the desktop, and I'll start with our PowerPoint slide here. And I'm actually going to use just this PowerPoint that you see right here. I'm not going to worry with having it fill the whole screen. That's just a fewer clicks that I have to make on this. But basically the idea for what the Alabama Scholastic Press Association was wanting me to talk about today was, how can you do broadcast journalism with what you already have? So I'm going to presume that you all don't have anything but maybe a computer or a smartphone, or you've got access to it. And I think this is important because I think for young budding journalists, one of the things that we can get hung up on pretty quickly is, I don't have the budget to buy a recorder, or to buy this fancy microphone, or to buy this type of camera, or video equipment, or any kind of thing like that. So the overarching theme today is, I'm telling you before we even get started here, do not worry about any of that stuff. My discussion with you today is not about the equipment that you have. It's about being able to become a broadcast journalist with what you already have, and to really strip down everything to the bare bones, basically. So let's start going with a script. The idea here is that you, as a broadcaster, are not going to be doing anything. You should not be doing anything without some basic type of script, particularly if you are recording a news story or a newscast. You need to be working from a script. It is one of the basic elements of broadcast journalism. And so I want to go through a few ideas that you can see here on your screen. Let's talk about double spacing your script first. And I'm presuming that you're in Microsoft Word. You do not have to be. Whatever program you have that you can actually type in and be able to read back from, print it out, anything like that at all is fine with me. But I just happen to be using Microsoft Word because that's what I have. So a couple of things to keep in mind. Do you want to double space or single space? It really comes down to personal preference. But for those of you who are just starting out, I'm going to recommend that you start by double spacing your script. There's a really good reason for that, is that especially when you get into the heat of the moment, particularly if you were reading it live as a newscaster or a reporter, it's very easy, if it's in single space, to skip a line or to reread the line you just read. So when you put things in double space, it allows you enough white space on that page that you don't get too caught up in the moment, and you're able to continue reading your script without messing up by skipping a line or rereading the line that you just read. It's really helpful to avoid that when you're doing these kinds of things live. The next thing you see right here is, of course, is all caps versus sentence case. That's going to come down to a personal preference for you. When I was first starting out, I did everything in all caps because it was easy for me to read and to see and to understand. After a while, the all caps thing didn't work so well for me, so I started using sentence case. However, I still would double space my copy because it's easy to either write in a quick edit in between the lines if you needed to, or it was just still so much easier to read. So all caps versus sentence case, you decide what works for you. It makes no difference to me. Really remember that at the end of the day, what you are trying to do is create something that you can read and deliver easily to your audience. Whatever works for you and the way that you see things and interpret the words on the page or on the screen, that's what you want to do. However, something that I would say would be a non-negotiable is this next one, short sentences. That's the SVO, subject, verb, object. In broadcast writing, short sentences are crucial to your ability to deliver the information, both for you and for the audience. And so I want to have you think about a couple of things here. When we're looking at it from your point of view, short sentences are going to allow you to express the ideas fairly quickly and also be able to do that while you still have enough breath in your lungs to be able to support that. If you are writing long, compound sentences with several commas, a couple of conjunctions, and, but, or, those kinds of things, after a while, you're not going to be able to get through that whole sentence before you have to take another breath. When you are writing short sentences, essentially you can get through a sentence at a time per breath. That makes for a lot more smoother delivery on your part, and it's a more consistent delivery pattern as well. If you look at it from the listener's point of view, that all of us as listeners can only remember short bursts of information at one time. So when you are writing short sentences and packaging them that way, you are giving your listeners an opportunity to understand this sentence. Okay, I follow that. Now I have this sentence. Now I have this sentence. When you're putting way too much information in one sentence, we're going to miss things. So package it in a way that is easy for you to be able to deliver in one breath, and also for the reader to be able to remember and understand in a progressive way. Finally, you can see the note about breath marks right here. I would encourage you all, when you are working on your scripts, particularly if you are brand new to trying out this broadcasting thing, try to put breath marks, actually physically go in and either write or type on your page where you need to breathe next. You're not going to know where necessarily to do this until you practice this a couple of times. And you won't need this once you get better at it and more used to it later on. But in the beginning stages of you developing as a broadcaster, mark those breath marks on there so that you don't end up running into a situation, which I'll try to mimic here, where you suddenly are starting to get out of breath and you're trying to push that out, and you know how that's what happens, right? So you want to avoid that because it's not a professional sound. So when you put those breath marks in there, it's a visual cue to you to finish your sentence, take a quick breath, and then keep on going. And I want to give you some examples of some scripts, and I'm going to minimize this here and bring up a couple of other things. Let's start with a voicer, and I will give you the feedback and sort of the lingo on what these things all are. So when I'm talking about a voicer, what I mean is all you are hearing in this is the reporter's voice. So if you are a reporter and your news director comes in and says, "Hey, Butler, I need you to record and write and record a voicer for the 5 o'clock newscast." What your news director is asking you to do is to take some information that you already have, write it in the form where it's just your voice. That's all they hear. No other interviews, nothing else. And then record it and then give it to the news anchor for that person to read. And so this is the type of this might be a general type of script that you might use. This one would tend to be used for audio, by the way. If you're doing video, they use a little bit of a different format as well. So don't get too hung up on formatting right now, especially when you're doing this at home by yourself and you're just practicing. This is really just to kind of give you an idea of what this might look like. And I've highlighted a few things here. Anytime you are the reporter and you are producing something for someone else to use in the newscast, it is a good idea for you to provide an anchor lead for them. And by the way, I still do the lead. I've always spelled lead, L-E-A-D. I do not spell lead, L-E-D-E. You might run across some people in some other shops who might do that. Feel free to go Google that and look it up. But I'm just sticking with L-E-A-D for this. And so what I've done is, as the reporter, I know that the anchor is going to need to read an introduction to my story. And then somebody, it's the anchor or someone in a broadcast production booth, is going to hit a button or click something online in their program and then play my report. And that's the true, whether it's an audio report or a video report. And so what I've done in this lead is I have written something for the anchor to read. And so if I'm not the anchor, but the anchor is someone else, she is going to read something live, and it might sound something like this. The governor is in South Alabama this morning to survey hurricane damage across the state's Gulf Coast. Butler Cain has details. Now, if you were listening to that live broadcast, at that point, you would hear my voice come in. And that's where I'm reading the script. And what I have done is I have written my script and given this entire document to the anchor, but I am also going to use this script to pre-record my news report. And as you can see right here, I've just titled this reporter script. And what I'm going to read is all of this that I've just sort of highlighted, plus the outro right here. And so I'm not going to give you all of this, but toward the end of it, it might sound something like this. Ivy says the state is already working on getting emergency funding for residents who have been displaced. For the UNA campus report, I'm Butler Cain. And so that's what that would sound like. I would go into a broadcast booth, or in your case, perhaps your closet or a silent room. I'll get to more of that in a little bit. I will deliver this recording. I'll read the script, record it, stop it, try to edit it, make sure it's ready to go, and then hand that off to my news anchor, whoever is doing that today. And so when we're talking about a voicer, this is what that script would generally look like. You've got your anchor lead, you've got the script that you are reading, and then you've got your outro. And the outro does a couple of things for you, and this is something I would like for you to start practicing. It gives you an opportunity to tell everybody who you work for, or what organization it might be, or the name of the report. And so for this one, I've just kind of generically gone with the UNA campus report. This is actually something I ask my students to do at the University of North Alabama, just because it's easy to stick with. And so you tell them with whom you're working, who you are, and then it's also a visual cue for the anchor to know you're finishing up, and then she or he can come right back in with the next set of news items. And so it does help create a really seamless flow of information. So that's what a script for a voicer would look like. Let me show you what a rap might look like. And I'll give you the broad picture and kind of scroll out just a little bit here. So this is what a rap might look like. And a rap, a W-R-A-P, generally, if you want to think about it as you have wrapped your voice as the reporter around someone else's voice, that's called a soundbite. So in this scenario, we have interviewed Governor Kay Ivey, and we have used a soundbite, a piece of the interview that we got from her. We've pulled that out and packaged it around my voice. So I've written a script that will introduce the governor and allow her to say something important that we believe we should pass along to our audience. And then we come right back in with the rest of our script and the outro as well. So think of a rap essentially as a voicer that might be a little bit longer, and it also includes a soundbite from someone you have interviewed. So when you're looking at this, and I've tried to highlight the major components, you can write an anchor lead, which is for the anchor. You can go with your reporter script, and then somewhere in that script, you've got your soundbite where you have introduced whoever it might be is speaking. You've got the audio or even video from, and allow them to say what they're saying. You can see right here, what is this :13? Traditionally, what you do in your script is you let either the anchor or someone else know about how long that soundbite is. And that right there means that's 13 seconds long. I read through it, timed it out, and just kind of came up with 13 seconds. But you would, from start to finish on that soundbite, let everybody know how long that is. Especially if you're producing that and giving it to an anchor for their live reading, it helps them to understand how long it's going to be before they time out. And also they can read along with it so they know that they can continue. Same thing as the reporter, I'm finishing with my script, and then I've got my outro right there for the UNA campus report. I'm Butler Cain. And so that's what a rap would look like. You are recording your voice, and then you are going to drop in someone else's soundbite in there, finish recording your voice and outro, put it all together, and that's the rap that you will produce and give to your news anchor. And so let me show you one more of these. I also have the structure of a newscast. One of the things that I've told you all today really is that you can start writing voicers, raps, or newscasts and not be working anywhere, just with what you've got. And again, we've done all of this right now with just a writing software. So this is Microsoft Word for us here. And I want to give you an idea of what a good structure for a newscast would be. And so I want you to work with me on this one. The idea here is that you are delivering a 2-minute newscast. That's something I would like for you all to practice on, and I can reiterate that a little bit later as well. But if we were going to write a 2-minute newscast, what should that have? Again, we're just doing this for practice. You're doing this to learn. So you want to have an introduction. And again, your introduction, it gives a greeting, like good afternoon or good morning. It tells everybody what they are listening to or viewing with the UNA Campus Report. And then it tells them to whom they are listening. I'm Butler Cain. This would be you, of course. And for a general structure of a newscast, think about it this way. If you want to have 4 stories plus weather plus the outro, this would be a general style of a newscast that you would be able to start practicing. You can do this with anchor readers or voicers right here, or you can do it with all anchor readers if you want. So think about the structure here. Number 1, you've done your introduction. The first story is going to be you as the news anchor reading something you have written. And that is the anchor reader number 1. You're going to end up doing this twice. So first story is you, the anchor, reading something. The second story, if you're working with a reporter, is that reporter's rap or voicer. You're going to read an anchor lead in, then you're going to play the report that they have recorded for you. When that is done, let's say they've said for the UNA Campus Report, I'm Butler Cain. As anchor, that's your cue to come out and start talking about your next story. And then you just go on down the list. So intro, your anchor story number 1, maybe a reporter's story, another reader that you as the anchor are delivering to your audience. You've got another rap or voicer from the reporter. And then I always like to give this structure to our students, give folks a weather report. And I suggest that you start practicing this as well. Do a today, tonight, or tonight, tomorrow format. And the idea would be if you're doing a morning or noon newscast, you might want to stick with, for the rest of the day, we're looking at partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of rain. For tonight, 0% chance of rain, but a bit windy. Lows are going to be around 72 degrees. That's going to be the kind of thing that you do. And if it's an evening newscast, you'll do tonight and then the expectation for tomorrow's weather. And so weather reports are really, really good to have, especially when you're just practicing writing a newscast for yourself. No one else may ever hear this at all. But let me give you an idea about why weather is good. I want you to, when you practice writing these newscasts, I want you to stick to a time. If you're going to write a 2-minute newscast, stick to 2 minutes and try to hit that 2-minute mark. Because when you're doing live broadcasting for radio or TV, you have time cues that you must hit because you might have to take a network break or you might have to go to a commercial break. And if you finish too early, you've got a lot of nothing that you've got to fill. If you finish too late, everybody who's watching or listening knows it because the commercials or the network break have cut you off and interrupted you. So it's vitally important that you practice hitting these time cues. How can you do that? Weather helps a lot because depending on how much time you've got left, you can do a little bit of weather or you can do a lot of weather. So weather is one of those things that allows you to be pretty quick or to stretch your time out so that you can hit those cues. If you all have ever been watching local TV news and you see for some reason the news anchor and the weather anchor continue to talk about something for a few moments, it seems like they're just having a little conversation there. They are trying to make time. So for whatever reason, they might have had a little bit of time left before they've got to hit that time cue. If they've still got 18 seconds, they're going to talk for about 18 seconds before moving on to whatever it is they need to do next. So when you have those built-in times, weather helps a lot. That it helps you practice getting to those time marks. And that's something you can do even when you're just doing this by yourself as well. So those are just a few basic ideas. You've got them right here in this recording, but at the end, I've got some contact information. If you would like for me to even email just these generic structures to you, I will be happy to do that for you. So I'm just going to keep going here and pull back up our PowerPoint and move on to the next phase. Let's go to field recording. So we have talked about being able to write with what you have. Script writing, newscast writing, it's super important, and you can do that with whatever TV, or not even TV, rather, but whatever computer or notepad, iPad, smartphone, tablet, whatever you've got, you can do it. So let's go to field recording. And I'm going to presume, for the sake of this, that you do have access to a smartphone, just like this. Mine just happens to be an iPhone, but you can have whatever you want. And so I want to tell you a few things that you can do already just with your smartphone with audio and video. And by the way, I am not bothering with getting into a whole lot of technicalities on this kind of thing. The idea for this conversation that you and I are having is, how do I just get started with basic stuff? What do I do? So that's how I'm going to do for that. By the way, if you ever want a little more information, again, get in touch with me. I'm happy to tell you. So for audio and video recording with your smartphone, a few things to keep in mind. Be aware of your surroundings. If you are not in a studio space or in your house, you might be meeting someone to interview them outdoors or at their office or any kind of thing like that. Always pay attention to the noise and visual happenings that are going on around you. For audio and video, you must be aware of the audio, because if the video is okay, but the audio is good, things are going to be fine. If the audio is bad, that's bad for audio, and it's bad also for any video that you have. So anytime the audio is terrible, you've pretty much ruined your recording, no matter if you're using it for audio or video purposes. So pay attention to that. Just a couple of ideas. What do you mean pay attention to what? If you're outside, are you standing next to a busy street? Are you standing next to a super busy intersection? Those cars and that traffic, as they go by, it is terrible on the editing process later, because it's exceptionally difficult to edit those kinds of noises out. And you can also tell when you've tried to take something out of your edit, whether it's video or audio, because the traffic noise will jump. It'll sound different. So try to pay attention to that. Are you standing next to a huge air conditioning or heating system that might suddenly turn on in the middle of your interview? You don't want to be near one of those. So whether you are outside, inside, wherever it is, just pay attention that you have a spot that's good for recording, so it won't ruin all of that audio and video that you've been working on. Related to that, once you are done with that interview, or even before, spend a few moments just recording your surroundings quietly. So if you are outside in a field somewhere, go ahead and record, get a little bit of that sound, at least a minute or two, to come back, because you never know when you might need that in the editing booth to help smooth over some audio or video. If you are thinking about producing a televised report, a video report, you don't want to just stop with the video of the person you're speaking with. You want to get video of the surroundings or of that person doing something. We call that B-roll. So that's not the sound bites or the video sound bites that you're using for them. That's the other video that you need to see to bring back to create a package. Don't get too caught up in all of that right now. We're still talking about basic stuff, but just an idea. When you are recording somebody, get close. And on this is my iPhone. So the recorder is at the bottom. Right here, you want to make sure that you are getting that recorder pretty close to people's faces, because the farther back you go, the worse the audio sounds. So don't be shy. You need to tell everybody, hey, I'm going to put this fairly close to your face and just ask you some questions. Don't worry about watching that. You can just talk to me. Just pretend like I'm not even doing this. And usually that helps put people at ease. The same is true if you're doing the video. You do need to get up fairly close for a couple of reasons. A nice tight shot is going to look really good, but also remember, you've got this microphone right here at the bottom, and you need to make sure that that microphone is close to those people's faces. Again, I am telling you this because I am presuming you are not going to buy a clip-on microphone or anything else that you might need for that. Don't worry with all of that stuff right now, especially while you're just trying to figure this stuff out. It may not be the best audio or video quality. That's not the point. The point is getting experience, and I'll tie this back in a little bit. Always hold this recorder. Never give it to anybody. Never give it to anybody. There's one other thing I should say about this. Never give it to anybody. The idea is this. You need to be the one controlling the quality of your sound. You know about how close you need to have that to these people's mouths and to their faces. If you give it away, people will forget about it and they won't pay attention to it, and you have no idea what they might be doing. So the audio and video quality would be terrible. Also, there's another practical reason why you don't want to give it away. When you give up your recording device, you have lost control of your situation. You have lost total control of your interview, and you may not get this thing back from them for a while. So always hold it. If anybody reaches out, just politely say, oh no, thank you, I appreciate it. I'm gonna hold this so that I can make sure I get really good sound for you to make you look and sound good. I'll take care of it. A quick note with holding the recorder. These phone recorders come with omnidirectional microphones. And if you don't know what that means, basically it means if you are, imagine dropping a pebble into a very still pond. And you know, when that pebble goes in, the ripples go out in circular form. That's what an omnidirectional microphone looks like. That's how it picks up audio. It's this circle effect coming out. And so what you want to do is be able to hold this at about an angle to whoever is looking. This is something that the professional broadcasting organizations will teach, especially when you have a microphone as well. Try not to get it right in front of folks, just like this. Try to hold it at a 45-degree angle and out a little bit. And so the idea might be like this. You're still going to instruct them to talk to you and look at you directly, but you're going to hold this to where the audio recording is somewhere right around here, not here, but about right here. And this does a couple of things for you, because you all know when you talk, sometimes we will pop those P's or blast those B's. And if this is right in the middle of it, we're going to get that poof, poof, poof kind of sound. And we would like to avoid that. When it's off to the side about 45 degrees, those p and b, those bursts of air are going to come out in front of the person, but it won't necessarily be picked up by this microphone on the side. It'll avoid a lot of that. So that's just a good technique for that. Imagine this, by the way, about 45 degrees, if you had a straw sticking directly out of your mouth or the other person's mouth. And so you get this 90-degree angle right here, split it in half with about 45. And that's a good place to hold that. So let's move on. I told you all that I would try to tell you some ways that you could actually record yourself with no other equipment. So how do you get that studio sound? This is legit, you all, and this is actually a really good piece of advice because professionals do this all of the time. So how do you get that studio recording? These three things right here. Do any of these and you're going to be golden on this. Hang out in your full closet. A closet that is full of clothes, blankets, other types of stuff. It is fantastic for stopping the sound waves from bouncing up and down all around the place. So when I say go and record your audio scripts or your podcast scripts, whether it's a newscast, a voicer, a rap, whatever it is, go into your closet, set your microphone, which in this case would be your phone. Again, I'm presuming you don't have a microphone, but you've got this. Set that up again at a 45-degree angle and just hold it. I'm going to also presume you don't have enough money to buy a tripod. If you don't worry about it. If it's not terribly long recording, just sit and hold it as you read your script that you were able to print up or just read it off of your computer screen or your tablet. If you've got a stack of books or a small table that you can set this on about mouth height, rock and roll, go for it. Whatever you need to do to keep this phone right about right here, do it. And when you're in your closet, if you've got enough space, I know some closets, mine is actually pretty small, but if you've got enough space to be able to point a particular direction, try to make sure that you are doing that in an area where there are a lot of clothes or other things so that it will muffle that sound. Let's say you don't have access to a good closet. You might be in a hotel. Let's say you're in a hotel room and you are traveling and you've got to produce something and you've got nothing else. Go undercover. And I mean literally go undercover. Get a heavy, I don't know, maybe you've got a blanket or a duvets, whatever you've got on those beds, pull it over you. Get up under this kind of thing. And you can't spend too much time under here because you'll start getting hot at some point. But professionals do this all of the time when they are traveling and they're not near any of their studios. Pull this heavy type of blanket or towels, whatever you can get over you. and then do the recording underneath that. That muffles the sound as well. It doesn't make it a bad sound. What it does, it prevents your voice sound from bouncing all over the place. So get up under those heavy blankets or towels or any kind of thing like that. Also, you can build a pillow for it. You have my permission and everybody else's who does this to build a pillow for it. And what you could do is you could sometimes see, let's say you don't have heavy stuff. All you have are sheets on this bed or any kind of thing like that. But maybe you've got some pillows or couch pillows. Build them up to where you can kind of create a couple on the side, a couple on the top, and you can sort of kind of put your face down in the open part on that, in that open wall. You've got your recorder right here, and you're still projecting your sound inside of that now mini little booth pillow fort that we've built, and it prevents your sound from bouncing all over the place and sounding hollow. These 3 tips are really, really good about making sure you've got some studio quality sound, and you don't have to spend a dime on this. And so don't worry about that. Use these little tricks in your favor. Let's move to digital editing. So let's say you've already written your tracks, you've already recorded your voice tracks, and you are ready to now edit these things together, whether it's audio or video. The whole point of this is doing stuff with what you already have or something you can get for free, right? So use something that's free and use something that you already have. So some free things. If you happen to have a computer, find an audio editor that's free. I know people tend to like to use Audacity. I actually own that on my PC. There's also, I think Twisted Wave is another one. You could look that up. For video, if you've got an iPhone or a Galaxy or something like that, you might have iMovie or some other pre-installed or free app that you can download to practice editing on video. The point of this here is about getting whatever you can get your hands on for free. Please keep in mind, you are not doing this for the masses, most likely, right now. I'm presuming that you all are just wanting to try to figure out, how can I even get started and do this kind of stuff? So use the cheapest, i.e. free, things that you can get your hands on and practice on those. Once you get good with those types of programs, then maybe you can think about spending a little bit of money on a better program, a better software that maybe has a few extra bells and whistles. But I really would caution you and encourage you not to bother with that until you really actually have a better skill set. You know what you want to do with these bells and whistles. So forget spending a lot of money on that stuff right now. Now, here's the part that I really hope you come away with today, because this is important, okay? Share it or don't. You've got a lot of choices for sharing your live and recorded delivery. There's SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is you want to pick. Do any of this kind of stuff. You could do it live. You can record it and then upload it. You could share it, on YouTube. I know that my video and these other videos that the Alabama Scholastic Press Association has been doing, they're putting that available on YouTube. You can do all of this. But here's the thing I really want you to consider and think carefully about. How about not sharing it for a while? I'm going to ask you to do all of these things and not show it to anybody for a little while, unless you've got a friend you trust or a parent or a professor, if you're just wanting some feedback on that. But here's the point that I'm trying to make. You need to learn how to do these things, and you need to have experience. You need to have practice, and really you need to do them over and over and over and over and over again. So I would like for you to fight the impulse to do something once or twice and then decide, hey, I'm going to put this out for the world to see. Maybe you don't put stuff out for the world to see until you've done it 10 or 15 or 20 times. And there's a reason for this. If what you can debut looks really, really good and sounds really great and has a great script and the audio quality is tight, and you can tell that the person who was doing it, this would be you, has been doing this for a little while. It's not the first or second or third time that person has done this. That's going to create some credibility with you, and it's going to help cinch up your brand a little bit as somebody who wants to put a really good product out there. You've got some early professional pride in this thing. So fight the urge to just slap something together and then put it out there. The chances are really good that your first effort is going to stink compared to your fifth effort, which is compared to your 10th effort, which is compared to your 12th effort. So think about this in a continuum. The idea is, if I want to start becoming a really good broadcaster, start doing the work before anybody else ever sees it. And I'll tie back into this. I'll try to cinch this up before we wrap this up. This does tie into this idea of professionalism. And so I want you to start thinking about becoming a professional from day one, from moment one. Sure, it's fun. I got into broadcasting because it was fun and I loved it and it was exciting and it was awesome and people were paying attention to me and they could hear me, and that's great. But also over time, I started to develop this idea of being a professional. Hey, what is it exactly that I'm doing? How am I carrying myself? What about the people who also work here? I represent them in everything that I do. So I don't just represent me. I represent everybody, not only in this shop that I work at, or in this academic program that I'm in, or at this university, or at this high school class that I'm in, wherever you might be in whatever stage of life. You're also representing the profession. You, in a sense, represent everybody who is doing this kind of thing. And I want to talk to you about a few things just really quickly. I would like to kill this idea that, frankly, I hear other professors sometimes talk about, and it drives me nuts. I totally disagree with this. You will hear some professors today in this modern era say that, hey, by simply producing and sharing videos or content or audio, you are now doing journalism. So simply by recording something, going back home, or uploading it to Facebook or YouTube from your phone and telling people what you saw, you have done journalism. So now you're doing journalism and you're a journalist. I totally disagree. I think that's ludicrous, actually. So producing and sharing content does not equal journalism. And I would like to hopefully convince you of this by telling you this, giving you this demonstration. If you broke your leg and I came by and helped you by putting a splint on your leg just to stabilize it before the ambulance gets there and takes you on to the hospital, I have committed an act of medical care, but that does not make me a physician. Being a physician comes with all types of different training and job expectations and values and ethical considerations, all of those things. So simply performing an act of medical care does not make me a physician. Performing an act of journalism, something that looks like what journalists do, does not make you a journalist. And so I want you to keep in mind, as you want to become a broadcast journalist, learn about journalism as a trade, as a profession, learn about its history, learn about the people who have come before you, learn about the ethical conundrums we have to learn about and consider and work through every day. Learn what it means to serve your community through visual or audio representation, or through your words that you might be writing or producing or putting on a website or a newspaper, any kind of thing like that. So professionalism, as you want to be a professionalism, think beyond just doing the work. Think about becoming a professionalism. And it involves a whole lot of practice. It involves a whole lot of commitment. And that last little bullet point right there, it involves doing the small, tedious things that are absolutely not fun. And an example of that might be reading and rereading your script 7 times just to make sure you have the delivery in a place where you want it. And that one word that you've been struggling about, you're finally deciding that that is the one word you want to use instead of this word. So the audience never sees or hears these kind of things. They never see the work, the hours of work that you put into as a broadcast journalist, into putting out a great product that you are proud of and that you want the community to see or hear or read. And so from day one, trying to become a broadcast journalist, even when you have no equipment, you can have a professional attitude. And so I want you to start thinking of yourself as someone who does these things in a professional way. And so here's the important idea here. There is a difference between getting experience and becoming experienced. And so you can think of the idea as getting experience is that pathway to becoming experienced. All of the experiences that you put yourself through, when it's recording this thing for the 5th time in the closet because you keep messing up this one word, when it is going out and reshooting some audio because you did not like how you sound it, reshooting some video or audio, just because you are not satisfied with your final product. When you get experience, all of that combines into becoming experienced. And give yourself time and be patient with yourself. You're going to mess some stuff up. That's okay. This is the journey that you're on. You cannot behave like a news journalist, like a broadcast journalist who has 10 years of experience unless you have 10 years of experience. So if you have 2 months of experience or 2 weeks of experience, give yourself a little bit of credit for being on the journey and give yourself some slack too. You will learn along the way. So becoming experienced, practice your delivery, practice your writing, practice your editing, and make practicing professionalism something that you do every day. When you do these things and you think about providing something of value to your audience, whether it's video or audio or digital, whatever it might be, you will become a good, experienced professional. And that's the goal that you want to achieve. And so I hope that this has been something that you found valuable, that you've been able to take some notes or make some mental notations about, hey, I need to think about this, or I need to follow up with this. I would love to hear from you. So if you have anything that you have a question about, or I said something that made you think about something that I did not explain, get in touch with me. There's my email address. That is my UNA email address, bcain1@una.edu. You can find me on Twitter @ButlerCain, and you can also find me on LinkedIn just @ButlerCain right there as well. And so I'll go ahead and wrap this up by saying I really appreciate your attention today. I hope you have found this valuable too. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen so I can just wrap it up here. And anytime you have any questions or thoughts or concerns about anything in this profession at all, please let me know. And by the way, you do not have to even be thinking about attending the University of North Alabama as a student. It's great for you to come. We'll have a fantastic time. But wherever you choose to study your broadcast journalism career, I'm going to support you in that, and I will still help you no matter where you're at. So please feel free to get involved and get in touch. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a terrific day. Thanks. Bye-bye.